stage. Harrison Bailey's there. Now steps out Nick White. Now steps out. Oh, this is going to be a beautiful win for the Ballarat local. He takes it out. Nicholas White. Harrison Bailey second.
I thought every team's represented. There's quite a large group of riders, and I thought it could go to the line, so I made the effort to get across to it.
I'm speaking with Harrison Bailey, who is a face you might be familiar with on Ride Media because he was actually one of our very few work experience kids. Back in 2012, he spent a couple of weeks in the office. He's won a few races in his time, but on the weekend, he finished second in Australia's oldest and longest classic, the Melbourne to Warrnambool. You finished second to the under-23 national champion, Nick White. And thanks for coming in to have a chat about it.
No, thanks for having me, Rob. We've definitely gone back a few years, I think. Back in 2012 when I came in and did a few tests and stuff, and obviously I've gone on and done a ride at a few races, and yeah, it's always good to have a chat with you.
We had a column by you a couple of years ago when you happened to be chaperone for Chris Froome when he came out for L'Etape Australia. Give us a little overview of how you've come to be a bike rider and why you find yourself riding around the Snowy Mountains, for example, with Chris Froome and doing the things that you do.
I think it's probably best to start at the very beginning, like how I actually first got into road cycling, and it started with my dad one year buying me a road bike for Christmas, and I think there was always a few years where I pestered him for a road bike, and eventually he decided to buy one for me, and that was off the back of watching the Tour de France as a 6 and 7 year old kid. So one year he went out on a whim and got me one. I started racing into 2009, and yeah, it's almost 10 years ago now, so time flies.
Might just get you to zip up your jersey and then you can talk to me a little bit about GPM Stultz, which is a team managed by Trent Wilson. He's a familiar face on the NRS scene. But just quickly in overview, the GPM team, what's your link there and how many years you've been on that roster?
So I was actually in the kind of the feeder team they had back in the day. It was called GPM Parramatta Race Team. So that started I started on that team in 2013. So yeah, this is my 7th year now kind of involved in that setup. I've developed a relationship with Trent and also Simon Hammond, who's the main sponsor of the team. We've kind of developed a really good relationship over the years, and hence why I've remained on the team for so long now.
So let's talk about the events of Saturday. Nick White's a formidable rival. You basically opened up the sprint, and we saw what happened. You were a couple of bike lengths shy of him at the end in second place. Congratulations on an impressive result. Can you just sort of talk a little bit about that race and then how it played out?
Obviously, with the new course, it goes along the Great Ocean Road. So yeah, you are very prone to the winds along that road. But I think we were we're lucky this year. The winds were probably in a favourable direction, so it didn't really cause the race at the front to split a whole lot, and also in the Pello, because I know the guys at the back kind of stayed together for the majority of the race, as we did at the front. We started with 13 or 14 guys, and we kind of came to the finish with a similar number, so it didn't really split up because of the wind. As soon as we rolled out, there was attack straight from the gun for the first 80 odd kilometres. I think with how these one-day races have been ridden in the past couple of years, everyone is so interested in making that break because they understand that the breakaway has such a good chance of winning the race. If the break gets away and it's made up of the majority of the teams, then no one behind is going to chase. So I think that's why there was so much interest. And I knew there'd be a lot of interest, so I kind of knew it would take a long time for the break to go. Hence why in the first 20 or 30 Ks, I didn't follow any moves at all. Like, just not one move. I conserved the legs in the middle of the bunch because, I played the bet that it was going to be a little bit silly to probably waste that energy earlier and wait a little bit longer, particularly because the first part of the race was along the main freeway between Melbourne and Geelong. It's a big wide road, smooth roads, very hard for anything to get away. There was constantly moves going away that looked really threatening, and then it was about the 80 or the 85 kilometre mark. There was a very dangerous looking move that got probably about 100 or so metres. I jumped across to that move on my own, and then I looked back and just saw the peloton streamed across the road. And yeah, at that moment, I'm like, okay, it's awesome. We're away here. Because yeah, I looked at everyone in the group. Everyone was there. Bridge Lane, Drapac, we were there. Informer there. Olivers were there. All the major teams in the NRS were there. So there was no one behind to chase.
We're getting familiar with those names: Bridge Lane, Olivers, GPM. they become part of the Australian cycling vernacular, but we don't see a great deal of them. Do you, as an NRS rider, see there being scope for this series to be rejuvenated now, or is it sort of past its halcyon time?
Yeah, it's always a tough question. I definitely think there is the potential to rejuvenate the series. You never want to give up hope on something it's the best thing that we have in the country, so you don't want to give up hope on what there is. Obviously, it's going to take some hard work to be able to get it to a standard that it's more in the limelight, I guess, or more in the spotlight, if you prefer, in the mainstream. I think it's going to take a special person with a lot of good ideas, political power, and also backing with money. It's going to take something like that to be able to get the NRS into a very strong position.
If I look at the podium at Warrnambool, I look at Nick White on top, and we see him as someone he's won the Zwift National Championship before he won the Under-23 National Championship. He's a rider who could potentially go on to a pro career. And you are more or less the sort of, let's say, the runner-up, the guy who's sort of chasing other elements of cycling. You're going over to France next week. We've talked about that. You're going to live in Besançon and race with a club. Do you see it as a 22-year-old that it's still a viable career option? And do you have the physiology to make it happen? And what, I guess, keeps you engaged? Basically, you're still spending your father's money to race your bike and trying to earn a little bit of your own to help pay your dad back. What's the future for a bike rider of your qualities?
I think as a bike rider, you're always going to be the forever optimist, because you have a dream in your mind and you want to try and chase that dream for as long as you can, or until you realise that dream's no longer going to be an option. I'm going to France because I know it offers a better opportunity for me to try and make that next step or get to that next level. I'd rather say, you know what, I gave it my best. I gave it everything I could. I gave myself every opportunity to try and advance my career. And I think so long as I do that and I give myself those opportunities, I'll look back and I'll be happy with how I've done. Obviously, I have those aspirations of going higher, but I won't be disappointed if I don't get to a high level. I'll be disappointed if I don't give myself the chance to get to that higher level.
And let's just conclude with a little word about your peers in the NRS. It is a strong and vibrant community, and I think that's one of the reasons that I'm doing this interview, is that I know that there will be people who have raced against you who want to hear what you have to say, and they'll probably even offer a comment saying, congrats, Harrison. I think that you have a kind of personality that tends to unite people. People like to see you win or have a good result. Yeah. And you're also very vocal in that little community. How important is it to have that encouragement from a peloton of guys that you're going to see sporadically around the nation throughout the season?
Yeah, I think it's always pretty good to have that support of everyone. It'd be a well wish on Facebook or an Instagram message, or even a congratulations in person. It was they were happy. There was a lot of the guys there happy to see me get up for a result. Sam Hill and William Hodges know me a little bit better than a few others because we've been teammates in the past. And I think because they've had that probably closer interaction with me, we've got a bit of a closer relationship, they were super ecstatic to see me win. I think plenty of guys, particularly in the Sydney cycling scene, also in the NRS scene. I've been in the NRS for a long time now. I think my first race was in 2013 in the NRS, so I guess I'm not a strange face to see at the NRS races. So I think it's definitely taken me time to get from that start in 2013 to where I am now, to actually finishing on the podium in one of the biggest races in the country. And I think guys have, there'll be a few guys that have seen that progression from, just being pack fill in the earlier years to actually being able to, get to the higher steps on the podium. Even Nick White's been doing the same thing for a few years now. He's been racing in the NRS for years. And, it's not only till the last year or two that he's actually been getting on the podium and achieving those big results. So I definitely think it's something motivating for those guys that are starting their entry into the NRS. You can actually see that there's probably a bigger pathway in the NRS now than what there has been ever in the past.